La la. Hello peeps and welcome to a brand new series, Project Hospital. The Peeping At episode did really rather well and I really do enjoy playing this game, so I thought that I would make a small series. I've had a look around on YouTube and it seems that the majority of people tend to jump into Sandbox and make their own hospitals from the ground up, which, if I'm honest, is not an aspect of the game that I have been enjoying particularly. So I really enjoy actually running the hospitals. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to work through these 3 campaigns, starting with campaign 1. Now there will be building in it because these hospitals do need to expand and stuff like that, and you need to rejig rooms and stuff and come up with more efficient layouts and that. So there will be building in it, but we'll be building in existing hospitals. So that we can just jump straight into the action and start doing stuff. So I thought we would complete through these 3 campaigns. If everybody is still enjoying it at the end of that, then we might jump into Sandbox in this large hospital here that has all the departments, and we won't sort of do the cheaty Sandbox stuff. We will just build this hospital and get it running as the best we possibly can with all the departments. So that'll be like our Sandbox, but I just won't build the hospital from scratch. But again, there'll probably be a lot of amendments that will need to be had in the hospital. Anyway, let's jump straight in to campaign 1. Here we are, a nice little hospital for us to sink our teeth into. Indeed we will. So we've got a little story. These are a little bit cringy to read, but we'll do it. Hi boss, how was the refresher course? You did take it, right? It's referring to the tutorials. I did, a long time ago, but yes. We'll need all of your skills if we want to challenge Misfire Medical Company. You know what? You know that you used to work for Misfire Medical and you helped them to become the best. But their greediness is what made you leave. And like you, we want to give people the best care possible, and with your help we just might be able to do it. We are in a pickle with this hospital. I like that, they're in a pickle. The pickle. Our manager took a huge loan from the bank and ran with all the money. What a scoundrel. What an absolute scoundrel. We suspect that he was working for Misfire Medical. What? They just don't want us to succeed. Why? And here, they just might. Oh no, because if we aren't able to return the money to the bank, we will have to close this hospital. So we need you to do what you do best and help us fix this situation. Since you are new here, the bank will let you borrow some more money, but we suspect that it is in our best interest to borrow only if absolutely necessary. You can boost income and patient intake by completing objectives for our friendly insurance companies. It should make this easier. Now go and keep an eye on the bank and return money as often as possible because you can lower the interest this way. Thank you very much. Here's our objectives. So let's have a look at our little hospital. So we've got the top floor here. This looks like radiology. It is. So we have largely empty floor here. There's no door though, by the looks of it, to get through. No. It's worth bearing in mind. And then we have this floor. So we've got, this is the intensive care unit, the ICU, which we can see here. There it is. And then, yes, the orthopedic centre along here. And then downstairs it continues a little bit. This is more of their walking thing, I think. And then we have emergency, which is the bread and butter. When you're starting a new hospital, this is what you would build, this area over here. And you would expand into, this is the trauma centre where ambulances send in, emergency cases. That's something you would expand into. This is part of the hospitalisation, and it does require wards and things like that, in which we have very tiny ones, which could be a problem. But you always start, when you're starting a new hospital, with this section here, which is kind of like your GP, where people just walk in off the street and say, I'm feeling a bit sickly. Right, so there's our departments that we have in this hospital. We need to get the bank balance to 0. So we've got 20,000, but yes, we've got 160,000 debt. And to be honest, we'll probably be adding to that at an alarming rate. Why not? Treat 10 patients a day. So the first thing we're going to do, if we're looking to save money, is see if there's any staff we can sack. The problem with this is that, if I recall, a lot of these staff members are quite good, so we probably won't sack too many. But it'll be good to get to know our staff, to see who is here before we get really into this. And so we've got live mode, we've got build mode, and then we have management mode. So here is where we can start really getting into the details of what staff we've got here and change them out if we need to. Also, in the emergency, in this hospitalisation clinic, what I'd like to do, this is the clinic, this is hospitalisation for emergency. So what I'd like to do is set this up to high, set up value of certainty, which will be used to confirm diagnosis. So it means they'll work harder to get a diagnosis. They may even continue medicine beyond 100% diagnosis, but most of the time this is quite nice to have on. Having it on medium can result more often than I would like wrong diagnosis and patients coming back the following day because they've got worse, or in a worst case scenario you do an operation on somebody that was unnecessary and then you have to pay 20,000 what's the word that I'm looking for? Malpractice, that's it. That's the word that I'm looking for. Right. So we're going to go through emergency first. So we can see our staff list in emergency. Here they all are. But we'll do it this way. So this is daytime shift, this is nighttime shift. This emergency clinic is actually closed at night, so that makes it a little bit easier. So we have a receptionist who's here in the day, Robert Thomas. And he does have the receptionist skill. I mean, he seems fairly good. He's a gamer. He's got very clean feet. He's pleasant. So I like this, he gives a nice staff modifier after interacting with patients. And resting is much faster in this sort of stuff. And then this here, so these are called perks, which is just a little misleading because they're not always positive. They can be negative. So these are more sort of traits. And this shows if there are any hidden traits left. And there's no hidden traits here. He's a really good member of staff and we don't want to get rid of him. So what we have here is we've got 3 GPs, 4 GPs. Okay, so let's have a quick look over them. Now, see, she has a long commute, Elizabeth Lopez, to get to work. And there's a hidden trait. So she's going to be late to work. That is potentially a problem. Now, Dana here is a hard worker, but there's 3 hidden traits and they could be bad, but I don't know what they are. And being that this game is based in reality, this is based on real illnesses and this is a simplified version of a real hospital setup, we are going to try and play a bit realistically in the respect that I'm not going to sack people without a good reason. I'm not going to do it. So we don't know what his hidden perks are. We don't know if they're good or bad. So what we'll do with this is we'll keep an eye on these guys. And if any bad behaviour rears its ugly head, then we'll deal with it. We've also got some janitors and we also have, this is a cleaning room here. And here we have a tech lab and we've got some technicians working in it as well. So let's have a look at our janitors. She looks really good. Karen Lee, rest levels decrease slower and she's much faster when she works. So she's actually really great. And so is Kate here. Uses free time to study. She's a chemist, can clean floors much faster. Absolutely fantastic. And in our tech lab, 2 hidden traits, don't know what they are. They're dealing with both clinic and hospitalised patients, which will be fine for now, but that may become a problem later. So we need to remember that. It's the same here. But again, he's pretty good. He's also a germaphobe. Now, Some may consider that a bad thing. Some may consider that a good thing. Obviously, he'll be very clean in the hospital, which is really, really great. But when he goes to the toilet, he washes his hands 3 times, which means he's in the toilet longer. So there's a payoff for that. Or, there's an upside, there's also a downside. You have to decide what you want to do. Anybody working here at night? Yes, we have 2 janitors at night, which is a lot, given that this department isn't open at night. But he's very good, although, again, he does have that germaphobe trait. What we like about William here is he's a night owl, so he works more efficiently during the night, which is fantastic, although he gets hungry much faster because he has a fast metabolism, but I don't think that's really going to be a massive problem for me. I'm okay with that. If it becomes a problem, then we'll deal with it. We also have Fraser here, who's pretty good, but he does have a long commute, so he could be late to work occasionally, which is a bit of a problem. So I'm going to carry on like this around the rest of the staff. If there's anybody I sack, I will cut to it so we can see who they are and what I do with them, and then we shall get on with this hospital. So Jennifer Adams that we have here, I've noticed that she is a night owl, but she's actually working the day shift. So what we need to do is find a job for her, although she is in diagnosis, but we could really do finding her a nighttime job, but this department isn't open at night. So let's go upstairs where there's an extension of this department, because over here she's a doctor, and what we have here, if we go to nighttime, this is a doctor's room that deals with hospitalised patients at night, and she might actually be better here if we turn her to nighttime staff. She's now going home, and what we'll do is we'll add her to here, Jennifer Adams. She does have some other traits, we don't really know what they are, but yeah. We're not going to get rid of her, we're just going to move her for now. But that means that we have now lost somebody from the day shift downstairs. He's an anaesthetist. You know what I'm trying to say. He's also very, very slow. We'll ignore him for the moment. We'll come back to that. So what we might need to do is look at replacing a member of staff from down here, because of course this room is now empty, but it might be okay to be empty for a little bit because we're not going to be that busy right from the start, so we might leave it empty for now and see how we get along. Casey Lewis here works in this room here, the sonograph area. He has a specialised skill in this. He's on the night shift at the moment, and near the beginning this is not going to be busy at all, and I've noticed that he has the slow trait. He will move much slower, so I don't really like him. So what we're going to do is we're going to dismiss him, and we're actually not going to replace him because I doubt there'll be a lot of demand for this room during the night for quite some time. So we've managed to get rid of somebody. It's always nice. Now this is a trait that comes up time and time again. We've got Brooke here. She has the trait of depressed. She gives herself the depressed modifier to herself. So what we have here is we've got satisfaction, and we can see here that she's depressed, and that reduces her satisfaction levels at work, which will affect the prestige of your hospital. So having somebody depressed working for you will impact negatively your hospital overall, and that can be an extremely problematic thing. But I also don't like to discriminate against somebody who might be a bit depressed. If she does good work while she's here, I mean, she's very well qualified, then I don't really want to get rid of them. As long as I don't have too many members of staff with this trait, then I tend to not worry about it. However, Brooke also has the long commute, so she's also late to work a lot. So this here is a really unpleasant combination, and there's a very real chance that I will need to get rid of Brooke. I'm going to keep her for now because she's extremely well skilled, and we might need her for surgery and stuff like that, and it gets expensive replacing staff. So I think for now we'll keep her, but she's on my watch list, Brooke, that's for sure. Paul White here, he is a fresh parent, which means that his rest levels decrease much faster. But again, I'm not going to discriminate against that. You wouldn't do it in real life, or at least you shouldn't. So we're going to keep him on board. But again, that could be considered a negative trait. I suppose it is in a way, but it's not something that I personally sack for. So we'll be keeping Paul White. Now I notice here with Dana Allen, who is a janitor, that she's working the night shift, but she's an early bird, which means she works much more efficiently during the day. So what we're going to do is just come to the day shift here, and we've got Frank here that we could put to night time, or we could, oh look, and this, oh no, she's an early bird, so it looks like it might need to be Frank. We're going to set Frank to night time, be part of the nighttime staff, and we're going to bring her to the day. But we're going to need to then assign her to this cleaning closet. There she is. So she now works during the day, which means she'll be much better at her job. If we come to nighttime, we need to add Frank to this cleaning cupboard for nighttime. So we're just swapping them around because it just makes more sense in this respect. And look at Lisa here. She is very slow mover, and she also has a long commute. So she tends to be late to work, and then when she's here, she doesn't do a lot. So we are actually looking at this one, going to dismiss this member of staff. She's no good to me. Quite honestly, she is no good to me. Now, as I go through the staff, something else that I'm doing is looking for good chief doctors, because in each department you can assign a chief doctor, and it says here that chief doctor adds daily bonuses to the staff on respective departments. So we've got Peter Miller here, who also is a good boss. He improves the satisfaction of supervised colleagues every morning. So what we are going to do, he's also germaphobe, so he's quite clean. What we're going to do is make him our chief doctor. So that's something that I'm doing as I'm going around the departments, is that I'm also picking good chief doctors out of the best that we have, even though we seem to have a lot of staff that have long commutes, and that could be a problem. We'll have to keep a close eye on that as we go, and possibly replace them as time goes on. Yeah, so as expected, we've not managed to get rid of much staff because I'm being quite lenient. But if any problems rear their ugly head, then we will absolutely deal with it. So let's jump in. It will probably start off quite slow because we're a new hospital, but we are going to have patients coming in, and we'll start dealing with them. So we can see that we've got patients coming in. Now, the first thing that I'm noticing here is that she came out to get him. So they come in, they talk to the receptionist, who the receptionist does a lot of triage work, meaning that they will prioritise through how ill somebody is, where they should be in the queue. But what we can do is we can save time by instead of the doctor coming out to the waiting room, which is these are waiting rooms here, these little areas, and this is our reception. So once they've been to reception, they come and they sit down in the waiting area, and then the doctors are actually coming out and getting them, and that does waste a bit of time, and we can reduce that time by, this is what we can do. We could delete a chair. Let's delete this chair here, and click on the waiting room, and we've got this here, a queuing machine. The queuing machine works together with one or more info TVs. In a waiting room, this system provides smoother patient flow to adjacent rooms. So if we put this in, and now this is blue, right? This turns blue, and this is turned blue, because these work together. You can't have one without the other, if you want it to work properly, that is. So that's what we're going to do. Is we're going to do this, and I think it's actually only going to register for this waiting area here, which is no good. So what we will do is we're going to combine all these waiting areas. So this here removes the rooms, so we're going to do that. That was actually radiology. What we need to do is make sure that we're in emergency. So now emergency is flashing to say that there's some rooms missing. We can see here that the waiting room is 0. If we click on here, we can now create this waiting room. We're going to make it one big one instead. Big one. So there we are. And what we could possibly do as well is just shove another television down here. Probably don't need to. It would still work with just the one. Oh, it's still saying a queuing machine, but But we have a cooing machine. What are you saying right now? There we go. No, it should work fine. Should work fine. So there we are. So now what will happen is that it'll just come up onto the television to say it's time to go to the room and which room to go into, and then they can just go to the relevant room without the doctor having to come out and get them, which is always nice. Always nice indeed. Do you know what? I haven't done all the things that I said I was going to. By that I mean we want to make sure that all these departments have high standards. Radiology doesn't, and I haven't set all the chief doctors. I didn't do it. We're interested in finding a chief doctor around here actually, but who do we want? Because a lot of these have hidden skills, traits, and we don't know. They could be bad. Oh, he's quite good. I think it's going to be Christopher Green that we're going to put here. He's probably our best. He's a fast learner. His rest levels decrease slower, and he moves pretty quickly. So he's actually really good. He's going to be our chief here. Radiology doesn't have doctors. Intensive care units got their chief doctor, but we also need one for this department. So we've got this guy here, and we don't know anything about him really, so I don't really want to make him a chief. But we've got all these guys here. Who did I miss? I just missed somebody. Was it you? So anybody here? No, I gotta be honest, I don't really, again, I'm not sure about any of them. Anybody working the night shift that's good? No. A tricky one. We're going to have to, I think, take a plunge. We'll go with the hard worker. So we'll make Thomas here. There we go. Okay. We'll do that for him. Right. Okay. Fine. So we can see here that he has been called in to the room without the doctor having to come out and get them. So it just works a little bit smoother with the next patient system in place. So shall we keep an eye on Peter here, who's feeling a bit fatigued, which is a bit of a shame. She's doing an interview at the moment. Oh, and she's managed to, and this is a thing here, we're going to pause this. She's managed to come up with the diagnosis, but she's going to continue to do examinations. And that's because we've got everything on high. I'm just going to get rid of them and say, hey, can we just give him his active treatment, his treatment for his illness, and send him on his way. And that means that she kicks him out a lot quicker. And this is something that I do when the hospital gets really, really busy, is I actually micromanage on such an extreme scale that, but I also do it quite quickly, that I can push more patients through my hospital than the game can do on its own, because I streamline everything. So what I tend to do, and this is more relevant when it starts to get busy, is particularly with the emergency department during the day, we look at patients coming in that are in the hospital, and here they are. And this is also a really good way to see if there's anybody that could be close to collapsing, and you know, something horrible might happen to them. And what I start doing is I just start looking them over. So she's currently doing a blood test on Joseph here, but we know that he's lactose intolerant, so I'm going to say just give him the diet modification details and send him on his way. And then we just come down the list like this and go through things. So here we can see he might have to go for an interview. Not an interview, for an x-ray, but I'd like to avoid sending him for x-ray, so we're going to try the physical. Actually, let's try a physical exam. I'm worried that she might send him straight for x-ray just because it's the easiest way to tell. I just don't want her to do it, or him, I don't know. Yes, Dana here. So we're going to see if she can work it out this way. Without sending him to x-ray, because x-ray can start getting really busy, and sometimes we really need to send people to x-ray, and I'd like it to be available when they do. So they're doing a physical examination. They might find out what's wrong with them. So this one's already been sent home. That's fantastic. He has also been sent home. That's wonderful. So they're going through a physical examination to try and work out if this is golfer's elbow Or if the hand is whatever that is. Bursa. Okay. It's that one. Right. Don't expect me to be able to read a lot of the stuff that's in this game. I don't do medicine. Anyway, she's diagnosed, given him the treatment, and will now send him home, which is fantastic. He's still waiting for his thing to happen. Let's go up from the bottom this time. Right, so differential diagnosis. So currently she's trying to work out with the symptoms that she knows which one is more likely out of these two injuries. But to be honest, I'm not sure it really matters because the treatment is the same. They're going to have to be hospitalised, which is what they do seem to be doing. They do seem to be doing that. Where are you? Hey, where are you? She's still trying to work it out. We would like... Oh, she's a bit slow, isn't she? Should we speed this up? There we go. So we can now say that's the treatment. So let's get it done. Now, as she's being hospitalised and she's going to be here for longer, her satisfaction levels will slowly decrease. So we want her to have the best care that she can while she's here. So I'm going to give her all the medicines that deal with all of her different symptoms so we can make her as comfortable as possible because it will affect the overall satisfaction of our hospital. And I don't tend to do it for walk-in patients that are going to be leaving again quickly. But I certainly do for ones that are being hospitalised. That is a problem. We've got the same thing again here. For Rachel, she's been hospitalised. Look at that, she has absolutely been hospitalised, and they're going to send her for X-ray, which I don't really want them to do. What I want them to do is differential diagnosis rather than sending her for X-ray, and there is a way of doing this. Where has she's still on the emergency department. This suggests that we might not have a doctor that can do this particular thing, so let's have a look. That's a problem if that is the case. That bothers me. So Christopher Green is her assigned doctor. Let's have a look here. He would have come from this doctor's on-call room here. And right, so Margaret Hall can do it. So if we change her doctor to Margaret Hall, we should now be able to do differential diagnosis instead of sending them for an X-ray, which is what I want to do. This is much faster, much better, more like it's also likely to get an outcome out of these two without having to use expensive equipment that's time consuming and, like I say, it costs us money. And it also keeps the X-ray room available for people who really need it. Whereas we might be able to get a diagnosis without using the X-ray, and for me that's pretty important stuff. So we'll let her get on with that. I'm fairly sure that she will be able to do it. There we go. Now she's still going to send her for X-ray, so I'm going to take this off again. What I could do is, instead of it being controlled by doctors, I could take over. And when I take over, it stops the doctors from doing things automatically. But I find this fairly arbitrary, this setting. Yes, it stops the doctors from doing things, but you controlling the patient's medicine and the doctors controlling the patient's medicine is not any different. These available treatments and the available examinations don't change. They are exactly the same, and you work through them. So you just click the buttons instead of the computer game doing it. Instead of the computer game doing it. So it's you know, I don't know if there's much point to that. I would like if this player control feature meant that we didn't. It sort of went into pro mode, right? And it told us, or it didn't tell us how many symptoms, hidden symptoms there were. If it showed us all the examinations available across all departments that we could possibly do in the entire hospital, and same for the treatments. And we just had to know what to do because we've played it a lot and we've started to learn the medicine in the game. That would be really, really cool. Then player control actually becomes really interesting, but it's not. So I leave it controlled by doctors, and as you can see, I sort of do it on the fly, and that works perfectly well. Now, as she's hospitalised, we're going to give her all the medicine because it will deal with... I don't even need to look at what does what. I know that all the things listed here will deal with all of her discomfort. and that's it really. Do you know what I mean? So it's a little disappointing in that respect, but like I say, I do really enjoy this game, even though I have some gripes about it. But you know, what games do we not have gripes about, right? Let's see here. Lactose intolerant, right? She's actually going to do. This lady, Kate Brown, is going to have some lab work done. I quite enjoy watching the lab doing stuff. It's quite interesting. I like it. But I don't feel like it was a necessary move. Differential diagnosis probably would deal with this situation. So even though she's going to be doing that, I'm still going to get this doctor to do this. Now, the reason the doctor can do this and others can't is because of this advanced diagnosis option here. Advanced diagnosis specialization gives the doctor access to differential diagnosis. So when you employ a doctor in these sorts of areas where they are doing diagnosis most of the time, this is a pretty important specialization to have. However, you'll probably notice if we go through our doctors, actually, I mean, they might all be they don't all have available specialization skills and whatnot. Let's try and find somebody that's... What have we got over here? So here, he's missing one. And remember, Christopher Green here couldn't do the differential diagnosis, and that's because he doesn't have the specialisation for it. And this all comes down to their level of education and how far along they are. They start off as an intern and they become a specialist. And as we see here, level 4 is a fellow, and he is actually an attending. So as they go up through their career levels, they unlock the ability to learn different skills. These are standard, you can't change these. However, if we wanted to, we could change the department that he specialises in. We're going to keep him in emergency. That's where he works, that's where we want him. So, you know, his specialisation in emergency is important. Likewise, if we went over to where they do lots of work with bones, we would want him to have this specialisation. But again, we could change it if we change department, but he's got 85% experience in this, and if we change it, he'll go back to 0, so you don't really want to be doing that. And then you've got their specialised skill, and again, you can change that to something different, but I would only do that in certain situations. Anyway, look what we've done here. We've managed to complete our first objective for insurance company, as has been completed. Treat 10 patients, and we just got given 20,000 doubloons by the government for doing that, which is pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. I'm pretty pleased with that. It's a pretty good start. And reach 65% prestige at the end of the day. At the moment, prestige is at 80%. I don't know if that will continue, but it seems to be okay at the moment. We're taking things slow and we're learning as we go, but as we get further into the series, we won't have to go over certain things in such detail, and we'll learn about different things as we go as well. But we've learned a bit about staff today. I think that's sort of been the theme today, is that we've learned quite a lot about staff, which has I think been fairly good for us to get to know what's going on with them. We'll get into allowed roles and all that sort of business during another episode. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the episode. If you did, please hit that like button. As long as you are here, why not take your first step on the path to total coolness by supporting me via Patreon. The cooler you are, the harder I work, which means even more SHIZWAH.